Hey, 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 I'm your host, Jasmine Haley, and I'm really looking forward to this episode of the Legacy Speaker Show. Our guest today is LeeAnza Romera. LeeAnza is the owner of Anchored Financial Management. She's a money strategist who helps entrepreneurs just like you manage and track their finances. She also supports with money mindset shifts that result in exponential business growth. LeeAnza believes that women are being called to rise and lead like never before, and entrepreneurs are perfectly positioned to take control of their abundance. She seeks to positively impact women by supporting them so they are confident, brave, and in command as they work through the messy phase of scaling and growth. LeeAnza is a coffee lover of all things beach. She has a beautiful family, and she's a huge integral piece for the Legacy Scaler brand. We cannot wait to talk about why each of us as business owners need to be aware of our numbers and organize it. Welcome to the show, LeeAnza.
Hi there. I'm so excited to be here.
I know. Listen, one of the things that I don't know if the listeners feel this way, but I have always had a form of dread, right? I have been honest about my money mindset, trauma, and things of that nature, but I have had a dread of dealing with financial people. And when you were recommended, shout out Jessica Rodriguez, when you were recommended to work with, it was like a breath of fresh air. You came in with such a calm for me because I was transitioning. I had left a financial institution and I decided to try to do it on my own, which it became a hot mess. And LeeAnza came in
Yes.
there, swooped in with her cape and saved the day. So I really wanted to have you on here, number one, because there's something that is empowering about hiring someone like yourself to help with knowing numbers. And it's not that we're losing anything. There is something that comes to each owner when they get to a place of being organized and knowing their numbers. So I wanted to discuss that, and I'm so happy that you are with us today.
I am so very excited to be here. I This is actually my first podcast interview I've done. So I'm very happy that it's with you. Because I feel like it's just you and me doing our usual money talk, which obviously I love meeting with you. So I'm very, very excited. And also just happy to talk about this because it's such an important topic. Just, having the right perspective on your money and having it just not be coming from a place of fear or shame or just anything that you may have experienced in the past, and finding the right person to work with is so important.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would love to know from you, just tell us a little bit about yourself and why you have a love of numbers. I'm always curious to know who and why in the world would they, but why do you love numbers? What got you into the work that you're doing now?
Okay, so this is what I studied. I am from Trinidad, so lived there for a number of years. Then I went to Barbados and I went to school there, and accounting is what I studied. That's what I got my degree in. And so it's funny because I actually hate math. So when we're talking, I'm always like, listen, I need to get my calculator because this is not computing just normally, but I think it's come from a place more of like just always having that being something that I've been good at handling, but also just the love of helping others, right? And it's just, I found myself working with numbers. It's fun sometimes. And then I have always been in bookkeeping and things like that. When I had my first kid, I ended up going into the virtual space working online because of we were going through the pandemic and all the things at that time. And I ended up doing the online working in the online space, and I just happened to have met so many amazing women business owners, entrepreneurs that just needed help in that area. And I just felt such a calling to work in that space, to bring my knowledge of, and just things that I also practice on my own, right, to help these business owners. And that's how I got to where I am now. And I'm very grateful for it because I have met some of the most amazing woman, one of which I'm speaking with, just helping with and being in this business, in this line.
Yeah. So I would love to know from your perspective and the dozens, hundreds or of numbers that you've looked at over the years, what are some of the misconceptions that you think that happens for some of us as business owners when it comes to getting organized and knowing our numbers? Like why are we struggling with that?
Well, I think that, basics, a lot of the times when I meet someone new, they always come to me and they say, so I've been working with a bookkeeper and an accountant, and it's basically like, this is my relationship with them. This is our communication every month. Here are your numbers. Great. Bye. Thanks so much. There's no communication about, great. What are your goals? What are what are we working towards? How do we work together to make these numbers work for you, to make you meet your goals, to help you meet your goals? Whereas these are what your expenses are. Let's work on income together. You know what I mean? Like, and putting that careful consideration into just how your perspective on numbers. People, I think, coming from working with people who approach money that way in such a very cut off, very like, here's your numbers, goodbye type of deal, like no interest in what's happening in the background of the business, right? Like, what's this person's goals? Coming from working with people like that, you always tend to have some sort of fear or just non-interest in even having the conversation, because it has never been helpful to you in any way. Talking about your numbers has been something that has been, either it's just been felt like a waste of your time because the conversation basically told you something that you pretty much already know by yourself on your own, or the person approaching you and working in your numbers and telling you, explaining to you where you are so far as numbers goes and income goes, expenses goes, they're telling it to you from a place of almost like they're talking down at you, like it's not really an importance for them. And that, I feel like that it's that needs to change, right? You absolutely can find the person who is willing to support you and make a money conversation something from a place of abundance, right? Like, let's look at this. Let's look at your income. Let's look at your expenses from a place of, where do we want to be? What are we working towards? Where, like that needs to stop, because it's so important to look at your money in the new perspective, right? In that way, because that's how we have successful businesses. Is it needs to actually, looking at your money needs to be something, or it should be something that you enjoy doing. Like, you see it as a part of your, just what you need to do when you have your business.
Yeah, what I appreciate about experiencing this with you is I love the fact that I feel like I have someone I could partially lean on, like not fully, because there's so many things I have to manage in my business, but with
Yep.
the aspect of cash flow or revenue generation or making some decisions that are related to the health of the business, I have someone who's going to give me the facts. What are the facts with the current state of my business? And I had never had that before. And I think I really love how you've kind of shared that it could be different, that you could have a positive experience when you work with someone to help you organize and know your numbers, that you could invest in having someone that you could, be able to ask a particular question or to forecast and think about what are your plans for the next year or 2 years or 3 years. And I remember one situation where I I was so used to working on my own, and I had made a decision in my business, and one of the things that you stated was, before you make this next decision, feel free and message me. Let's make sure that the numbers align. And so it's empowering me to, even just for myself, although I've been in business for 7 years, to look at things and reframe things differently. So I would love to know, like, and that was really, really valuable to me. So I want to thank you for that, LeeAnza. So if someone's in the place where they want to get their numbers more organized, get to a place of knowing their numbers, where do you think they should start first? And I'm curious to know when you think they should hire someone to help support them.
That's an awesome question. So as far as what they should do, so I mean, every business, sometimes, not every business owner, sometimes business owners seem to think, I can run my business and I can just do my books on the side whenever I get some time. I'll jump into QuickBooks or whatever processing system and just knock it out real quick. But then by the time you've put that off for a month and now you have a month worth of transactions sitting in there, and then you go, it's so overwhelming by that point that I feel like it's kind of just, you kind of say, okay, you know what, never mind, I'll do it next month. And then it's double the amount of work, right? And I see you smiling. So
Guilty as charged.
But it's important to find the support, right? And it doesn't need to be anything, complicated. But what I find is helpful is to use something like a cash flow sheet where you can list your income, list your expenses, just have it all out so you can see it, see just where how much you're spending every month, what your income needs to be. Think about things like a profit. Just have a cash flow sheet that you can have everything in there, and look at your expenses, look at your numbers. Just having an actual visual is very helpful. As far as the time of when you should get support, I, I feel like that's based off of, I could say by the time you make, 50K, like, let's, hire somebody. But it's all about a time of, don't ever let it get to the point where it's being put off because your numbers are important. It's important to have clean books. It's important to have your bookkeeping up to date, and not just for tax purposes. Like I said, for planning purposes, right? You're doing quarterly planning for your business. You're setting goals for yourself. You need to know where you are. Get support when you are setting those, when you know it's important, you're coming around to growing your business and setting some goals for yourself, and you need to hire, and you need to perhaps you're into planning events and things like that. You need to have that support at that time. It makes sense that way. Otherwise things will start getting very overwhelming, and just it'll feel like too much, and then it'll get to the point where it's so overwhelming that now you're forced to hire somebody, and you're just, you may or may not end up with the right person at that point, because now you're just in such a rush. And so
Yeah.
that's what I feel like happens to a lot of people.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So let me tell y'all what not to do. Don't come up here and reach out to LeeAnza with your book's not done for a whole year, because your girl did that. Okay. I kept saying I was going to do it. 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 And it didn't happen. It did not happen like it was supposed to. And so, yeah, she won't turn you away, but I could have saved myself so much headache. I could have saved myself more money, right? I could have done things a whole lot different had I found the right partner. And partially the reason why it took me almost a year is because I had an experience that was not positive, and I just didn't want to put myself through that again. But I want to encourage each of you that even if the experience has not been a positive one, to keep searching. I've reached out to my former coach, who I also consider a friend, and I highly value her opinion and her recommendations. And she was the one that connected me to LeeAnza. So there could be somebody that is in your network that can refer you to someone that will be able to make the difference for you and your business. Of course, we want you to reach out to Anchor Financial Management. We'll have the contact information in our show notes and see if they are a great fit for your specific needs. But I think it's important to just highlight that it's just like a relationship. You have to find the right partner, and it's okay to say, you know what, this isn't working for me. I'm going to move on to the next one until you feel like it is aligned. Do you see that happen to some of your, have you seen that happen to some of your clients over time?
Oh, absolutely. And just to touch on what you just said about, if you wait a whole year to do your books, it has happened before. And then when you bring a client's books up to date, they go, "Oh my God, that's really what I spent money on last year." Because it's you're not keeping track of it, right? And then you realize, wow, I could have definitely have spent that somewhere different. Um which is funny. But It's also something I always tell people, like, listen, don't be ashamed. It happens to more people than you think it actually happens to.
Mhm.
So, but there's that. Um, as far as, I'm sorry, I started talking and then I forgot what your question was. What did you say?
It's okay. I forgot it too. So here's my next one. So my next question to you is like, if someone is looking to hire someone, right? What would you say are 3 things they should ask them before they hire them to
Okay.
organize their numbers?
To organize, oh, you mean to hire a bookkeeper?
Yeah.
Okay. One, um, what is their, what's their like method of tracking your expenses? Just be, I will always say, work with someone who is creating a cash flow sheet for you. As I mentioned before, that's a very important part of bookkeeping. We aren't just, putting numbers into QuickBooks and they're not pulling that up on the screen and just saying, here are your numbers every week. You want something that you can work in, project, have projected expenses that you're working on together, looking at your actuals. That's very important. So what method of tracking are they using for you apart from the processing system? um, you also want to know how much they're going to be involved in your goals, right? Like, you need to let them know, you're going to tell them, these are going to be my goals for the year. I need to know how you're going to help me make these goals happen or get to as close to them as I can as possible. That's a very important part of being a bookkeeper. And not just the person in your numbers, right? This person is telling you about your money in detail every single month. So that is a very important part. Like, what are we going to do with these numbers together, right? And this person also needs to, third thing, they also need to make sure your priorities are their priorities. Apart from the goals, they need to know what is important. And this is something that you also need to work on as a business owner. Like, know what is important that you get out of your numbers. What do you want to get out of your numbers? What detail do you specifically want? And that person has to, you need to let them know what they are and make sure that they have made those a priority of theirs as well. As you mentioned, like, bookkeeping is a relationship. It's a very important relationship that you will have as a business owner. And um, the way, the perspective that this person brings to you and how you look at your numbers is a very valuable part of your business. It's going to help you grow. It's going to help you to make all your goals. It's going to help you with your hiring. Looking at your numbers helps you do and every or handle every function of your business, every single
Mhm.
part of it. Hiring, planning, paying yourself. It's just the most important part. And you have to remember that when you're looking for support in this area, find someone who is willing to talk to you on that level. Like, this is one of the most important parts of your business. Make sure that that person sees it that way as well. That's definitely it. And you know what, it's funny because it's not always thought of as the most important part of the business. It's always like sales or marketing or, let's all of that, all of the above. But you also got to see what your money's doing and what we want it to do for you, right? That's how you have to look at it.
Yeah, and if you're someone like me who tends to think on a pessimistic side or you tend to be hard on yourself, what I really appreciate is having my monthly meetings with LeeAnza and going over what I achieved versus what I achieved last year and this year really helps me to kind of reframe. Oh, okay, I'm actually not doing as bad as I thought I was because we're so involved in the day to day that we don't, I mean, we're not looking at the minute numbers like we should. And I think that that's really important too, because there needs to be times where we pause just enough to be able to celebrate. Like, how are we celebrating what it is that we achieved? So I've got one more question for you, LeeAnza. I am curious to know what it was the best business advice you've ever been given.
Oh, the best business advice. Wow. So there's a lot to pick from because I work with some of literally the smartest women I've ever met. Best business advice would be define your own success. So what's successful to me may not always be successful to you, but I need to always remember, you know, So for me, I've built my business to be able to be a mom, and we're military, so a military spouse, and being able to be the mom that I want to be it defines my success. So me being able to go, when we're done here, I go grab my kid from school and I don't have to sit at a desk all day. That defines my success. I help my family financially, and I love that. And my husband appreciates it. Definitely not more than one husband there. But that's my success, and I think that applies to every single business owner. Like, define your own success. Whatever, you don't have to be making $1 million, but if success to you means that you get to be there for your family, or perhaps it is the financial side of it, whatever that means to you, you are successful. That is definitely one of the most important pieces of advice that I carry with me.
Yes. Oh, I love that. And I'm so thankful to you. I think that, at the time of this recording, I have a multi six-figure business and have only got there because I started paying attention to my numbers and knowing my numbers. And it helps me see what areas I need to pivot, what needs to change, and if I'm headed towards my yearly goal. And so an integral piece to that is hiring someone like LeeAnza. And I hope that this discussion for each of you is exactly what you needed to hear today to remind you to organize and know those numbers, y'all. Okay. Thank you, LeeAnza, for coming on to the show. I would love for you to share with the listeners where they can find out more about you.
Okay. Well, first of all, thank you so much. I'm so excited that your podcast was the first one that I ever got to go on. That's very exciting for me. So I love that. So you're awesome. Thank you so much for inviting me. And also, as far as for right now, I'm just on Instagram. I'm sure you'll put my page up there, and feel free to DM me, or I'm always available online. That's my only source. I haven't done the whole website thing yet. We busy. We got people like Jasmine whose numbers we have to work on. So just on Instagram for right now.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you once again for being on the show.
Thank you so much.
Of course. All right, y'all. That is it. We had such a great conversation. I hope this inspired you to take a look back at your numbers. You should be checking them daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, and you need to have a financial team to help support you. I love that LeeAnza mentioned kind of a marker of around the 50K. You can get someone even sooner than that, right? If you know for sure that you're not going to be keeping up with your specific numbers, but they have to be organized. You have to look at your cash flow. You have to look at your expenses. You have to look at the revenue that you're generating, because that is the only way that you can build a strong foundation to head towards your specific goals. So if you're in need of a bookkeeper or any financial management services as a business owner, as a small business owner, please feel free and reach out to Anchored Financial Management. Reach out to LeeAnza. You'll find the information on our show notes. And I want to encourage you, if you know that speaking is something that you want to leverage to diversify your income in your business, reach out to Legacy Scaler. Make sure to leave us a review on our podcasts to make sure that others find the incredible gems that we're sharing on a weekly basis. All right, y'all. I'll see you in our next episode. Take care.